The South China Sea is an important global trade route as well as a potential source of hydrocarbons, particularly natural gas, with rival claims to ownership of the sea and its resources. The South China Sea is one of the world's most important commercial routes, stretching from Singapore and the Malacca Strait in the southwest to the Taiwan Strait in the northeast. The sea is rich in resources and has strategic and political significance. Global trade. Moreover, half of the world's annual merchant fleet tonnage transits the Malacca, Sunda, and Lombok Straits, with the vast majority continuing on to the South China Sea. The South China Sea transports about a third of worldwide crude oil and more than half of global LNG trade, making it one of the world's most vital commercial routes. Although there are few detailed data on traffic volume, eastbound marine trade through the South China Sea flows through the Straits of Malacca, Sunda, and Lombok. According to a 2006 research by Japan's Ministry of Land, Infrastructure, and Transport, MLIT, about 94,000 boats of 100 gross tons or bigger went through the Strait of Malacca in 2004, accounting for 15% of all global ocean-going vessel movements. The remaining were LNG and other ships, with 32% being container boats, 25% being tanker vessels, 15% being cargo vessels, and 15% being bulk carriers. In late 2007, a follow-up survey anticipated that 117,000 boats with a total deadweight of 4.7 billion metric tons would sail through Malacca in 2010. The review of Maritime Transport 2011 of the United Nations Conference on Trade and Development, UNCTAD, predicted 8.4 billion tons of total world maritime trade in 2010. According to this volume, more than half of the world's yearly merchant fleet tonnage sailed through the Malacca, Sunda, and Lombok Straits in 2010. With Asia's rising energy consumption, the EIA predicts that more oil from the Persian Gulf and Africa will transit through the South China Sea. Furthermore, Asian countries are investing in new natural gas exploration and development in the region, boosting their share of global LNG commerce. Crude oil. According to data from Lloyd's List Intelligence Tanker Tracking Service and GTIS World Trade Atlas, around 14 million barrels of crude oil transit through the South China Sea and Gulf of Thailand each day, accounting for nearly a third of global oil traffic. Over 90% of overall flow originates in the Malacca Strait, with the remainder originating in intra-Southeast Asia regional trade. First, in 2011, roughly 15.2 million barrels of oil per day, MMBBL/d, traveled across the Malacca Strait. The shortest marine route between African and Persian Gulf supplies and Asian customers, see world oil transit choke points. A considerable volume of crude entering in the strait, 1.4 MMBBL/d, is processed and transported out as refined petroleum products from terminals in Singapore and Malaysia. The remainder of the flow, 12.8 million MMBBL/d, then travels through the South China Sea to China and Japan, 4.5 and 3.2 MMBBL/d, respectively, Asia's two largest energy consumers. Finally, around 15% of oil passing through the South China Sea continues on to the East China Sea, primarily to South Korea, see East China Sea Regional Brief. The South China Sea also receives crude oil through intra-Southeast Asian trade, mainly Malaysian, 0.4 MMBBL/d, Indonesian, 0.3 MMBBL/d, and Australian, 0.2 MMBBL/d, oil shipments. Intra-regional commerce is about evenly divided among Singapore, South Korea, Japan, and China, with smaller amounts flowing to other Southeast Asian countries. Singapore receives 1/5 of intra-regional crude oil flow, the greatest of any importer. Approximately 0.2 MMBBL/d of crude oil flows south via the Lombok Strait to Australia and the Pacific. Natural gas that has been liquefied. Using statistics from PFC Energy and Sedigas, The EIA estimates that roughly 6 trillion cubic feet (TCF) of liquefied natural gas (LNG) traveled through the South China Sea in 2011, accounting for more than half of global LNG traffic. Around 56% of this volume, 3.4 TCF, was imported into Japan, 24% to South Korea, 1.4 TCF, 19% to China and Taiwan, 0.6 and 0.6 TCF, respectively, and the remainder to other regional countries. Qatar was the largest seaborne exporter, at 1.2 TCF. Qatar, Malaysia, Indonesia, and Australia accounted for about 75% of all LNG exports to the area. Japan increased its LNG imports following the Fukushima disaster. According to PFC Energy data, the South China Sea area accounted for around 58% of global LNG commerce in the first half of 2012. With rising East Asian natural gas consumption, the South China Sea's proportion of global LNG trade is expected to grow in the future years, according to the EIA. Much of the new supply will pass across the Malacca Strait. However, Singapore and Indonesia are investing in new regasification plants fed by South China Sea gas fields to expand their LNG export potential.